right, so right now, living in Portland, okay, we have dealt with some insane things recently that caused me to reach out to you. I had so many ideas of what I wanted to do for this season, but street violence is continuing to get more and more heinous and out of control. In the last 2 months, some things that stick out to me was a homeless woman actually walked into the home of a family and got in bed with their child. This was a woman that was suffering from mental illness, probably dealing with some drug abuse as well. And that lady could have potentially harmed this child and harmed that family. Another situation that happened recently was a woman pushed a 3-year-old child onto the train tracks here. Yep. Luckily, that child survived, came away with very minor injuries, but just think of the ramifications and things that could have happened. And then the most egregious, over the last couple of weeks, there were 2 homeless people that were on a platform here at our citywide rail service, and one person experiencing mental illness and dealing with drug abuse actually got into a fight with this person and chewed off half of his face to the bone. As crazy as that sounds, I can see you laughing and giggling. As crazy as it sounds, all of this you can Google. I am not embellishing, I am not making this up. But these are the things that we're dealing with here in Portland. This is the second time that we have filmed this, and I'm telling you guys, when I brought this up the first time, we laughed so hard because it's just the lunacy of even having to say this. And then you were talking about a situation where someone was attacked with an axe. Yeah. You got to share that story again.
Going off of that is, we don't need to rent certain films like apocalypse films. They're fucking go get gas. So that same woman did push that child. She was caught and released, no bail. So she wasn't even held for a day.
Right.
A week prior, she actually stabbed and slashed a man with a knife that was trying to feed her and a group of other people, doing a solid human being thing. But going to the axe portion, it was a convenience store where...
what city was this in?
Top of my head, I can't remember.
Okay, right.
There was a lady and gentleman. He's waiting on her at the cash register. So black lady, white guy. And then he happened to see this dude walking back and forth in the store with
just pacing with an axe.
With a giant axe, just back and forth. And
no one thinks that this is odd.
Apparently not. I mean, he gave that's different. Or maybe he's just like, I wonder what type of axe that one is. But then the female decided, she was done, and he stepped up to go to the counter to pay as well, and he just hears like, he turns, and his self-defense kicked in for him, and he froze, and he took an axe directly to the chest. He went down, and then the female that was prior at the counter, she was like, oh, fuck this, tries to make it out the door, and the person attacked her from behind, putting the axe like close to the neck but on the shoulder.
Oh my God.
So for him, broke scapula, some ribs, and some here and there issues. For her, it broke her clavicle, destroyed her shoulder, and a bunch of other issues. And I mean, that was just out of the blue. You also have, there was a gentleman that decided to do some shoe shopping, and then as soon as he walked in the store, he was checking out a pair of shoes, and a guy walked up to him behind with a skateboard and took the back of the trucks direct to the base of his neck. Still in critical condition.
In these situations, these conversations that we're talking about, these are real life instances that have happened. And guys, you can Google them, you see them on the news, and so many people are just being oblivious to the dangers that are around them. So today we're going to be talking about mitigating some of these things. What are the threat indicators? What are some of the things that you should look out for, and how do you protect yourself? We're going to talk about first something that we really haven't seen a lot in the past 10 years, but it's starting to make kind of a resurgence. You talked about the guy hitting someone with in the back of the head with the skateboard. The knockout game. That's something that was a big thing like 10 years ago. And what would happen if you're unaware is that generally you would have groups of maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, teenagers that would walk up on unsuspecting people and just punch them right in the face. And the goal was to try and knock people out or to flatten people in one punch. You're starting to see more and more of that starting to come up again. People not even just utilizing their fists, but utilizing things like skateboards or baseball bats or hell, an axe or a hatchet. So what are some of the early threat indicators that people can be aware of to kind of understand what's happening? How do they deal with this situation?
I mean, early threat indicators, everybody has that, we'll call it like female intuition or the male gut feeling. If I'm walking down the street and I see 5 dudes walking up and it seemed, and something in me is like, oh, that's off. Well, that's a good time to go, maybe I should cross the street, right? But society has a thing where like, oh, don't hurt somebody's feelings, right? And so even when law enforcement talked to them later, so like, oh, you saw him, you got a weird feeling, but yet you still went. Why? And like, well, I didn't want to seem racist or a bigot or judgmental. Okay, so to confirm, you thought you were going to walk over there and get your ass kicked, and then in turn, you walked over there and got your ass kicked. And he's like, yeah. And it's societal, or society, how it's like, you know, you can't be this way, you have to, you know, like it's feelings first, a lot of times. And that's not the case. If you have that whatever intuition and you're like, hey, this doesn't seem right, you can do it, I guess, in more of a respectful way. You know, like if I'm walking down and once again, like, oh, that's 5 dudes down there, you know, they're carrying axes. You know, I might not like, well, like, I wonder if they're lumberjacks. I'm going to find out. I might stop, you know, like, oh, this is the place I'm looking for, and try to cross the street. I want to get some type of reactionary gap. Now, if that same group suddenly charges back or, you know, cuts back over, I can put myself between them and like a vehicle or something of that nature. So I have something. But once they start, you know, if it's like, oh, they're coming around, I know I'm in the fight.
I think a great conversation for dads, for boyfriends, for husbands. I've told my wife and I've told my 3 daughters, you do not owe anyone an explanation or an apology for your feeling unsafe. In any situation where you have that internal dialogue that, hey, this doesn't seem like a good situation for me, you do not have to explain to someone why you switched seats, why you stepped across the street, why you locked your car door. Here in Portland, I think that people tend to find themselves trapped by their liberal ideology. And when I say that, I don't mean that negatively or disparagingly, but people are so concerned with the optics of how something looks. Specifically, if you have a group of teenage black kids, or if you have a group of tattooed people, or people on skateboards, or homeless people, it's so ingrained to not do something that can be viewed optically as being offensive. And most people put themselves in horrible situations. I can only assume the lady that had the child pushed onto the train tracks, she probably saw some very early indicators that the lady sitting next to her was not sane and was not wrapped too tight. But the thought of just moving to a different area probably came across as like that would be insensitive to that person, and her kid could have lost their life. So I want you guys to be thinking about that. In terms of the knockout game, some of the things that you're going to see are groups of kids or groups of teenagers that are at a distance, they're laughing, they're joking, they're being loud, and then you see them pull out their phone. And as they're filming one of the people in the group, they turn and they focus on you, or they focus on the other person that's in the area that's not paying attention. Now, 10 years ago, that would have been much easier to kind of pick out. You have a group of kids together and they have their phone out, they're filming themselves, and now they're focusing on you. But here in 2023, everybody has their phone out. Kids are always out, they're always around, they're always doing that. How do you kind of look at what would have been an early threat indicator maybe 10 years ago, and how do you put that into context of today where more people are out and about and they have their phones out?
So mitigation, hidden mitigations. So if I am walking up, I don't want to just be caught off guard. We live in a society, we're going to be close to people. I can't constantly like, you know, hey, fuck off, back off, because now I'm the weird one. So if I'm walking by and something doesn't feel right, I might just have my hand up to maybe scratch my own face. I have a hat, so I like to, you know, do something like this. So if I'm coming by somebody and my hand is already up, it doesn't look like anything. I'm scratching my eye, and if something should happen, I just can cover up, and then I'm better suited. So I'll cover up. I'm not losing that, because your first reaction is going to be substantially faster than my reaction. Because if I'm walking by like, I'm already like, fuck, this is going to suck. But if I'm already right here and that just pulls up, I'm covered. I'm not just going to take that straight on the chin, the mouth, temple, neck, wherever the case may be. I'm already covered up, and it doesn't look like anything. I'm just fixing my hat, I'm scratching my face, and I'm already in that covered up position. And then you'll have to deal from there.
Clearly, the easiest thing would be to step and go over to the other side. But again, you do run the risk sometimes in these situations where if you have a group of individuals that are looking to do harm to someone, they're trying to pick out their target, you moving across the street, it really could kind of turn their focus onto you, right? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
That's actually, in my opinion, better, because if they're already planning on doing something like this, I cross the street, they cross the street, I already know I'm in it. So it's fucking...
You've already created more distance, now you know what their intentions are, and
I'm prepared
situational
now.
awareness is ready.
I'm building that reactionary gap, because like, I crossed, they crossed, I stopped, they stopped, something of that nature. I'm in the fight. I'm now have to be that switch flipped. I'm in the fight.
Well, speaking of being in the fight, let's talk about that in the next episode, where we talk about how to mitigate being in a situation where you find yourself getting jumped.